morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Woodbridge Metro Chamber of Commerce 18th Annual Mayor's Breakfast. If you would, please stand. Our treasurer, Barry Bertiger, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Barry. Please be seated. Before we begin the program, I'd like to thank our generous sponsors for today: Bayshore Recycling, Bank of Woodbridge, CME Associates, Columbia Bank, James P. Nolan and Associates, Ideal Homes, Northfield Bank, Wegmans, Berkeley College, Royal Albert's Palace, RSI Bank, and Middlesex Water Company. Big round of applause. As always, we are grateful for all the support that you give us. At this time, I would like to introduce our mayor, Honorable John McCormick.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Chamber for hosting the annual breakfast. I'd like to introduce some of the people in the audience. Three of our council people are here. Your home councilwoman right here, Debbie Meehan from the 5th Ward. Councilman Vera Patel from the 4th Ward. And Councilman Nancy Drum from the 1st Ward. Former Councilman Jimmy Carroll. And I didn't start with my typical welcome to Woodbridge, the best town around, because I don't want to embarrass any other mayors who are here. But you are the best town around. I know at least one mayor newly elected and doing a fantastic job in East Brunswick, Dr. Brad Cohen. And we have a whole lot of our top team directors here, so if all the directors would just please stand. Anybody who works for the best town around, just please stand up. And also, from our Board of Ed, we have Brian Molnar. I don't know if anybody else is here, but thank you, Brian. This is a terrific program. We are very glad that we're in the Sustainability New Jersey program. It's run by Carolyn Ehrlich, who came to me around, I guess, 2009, and said she read in all the things she does, because she reads for me on the weekends, because I don't have time to do that, because now I'm doing all the events, and she reads. And she came across this contest for sustainability. And it was where all the towns in the state of New Jersey would submit all the things they do for sustainability, try to do more, try to have a little competition. And she said, what do you think? Can we get in the competition? I said, sure, but you better win it. And I'm happy to say that every single year we've been in it, we've won it except one, and I regret that, because the sustainable people said, look, don't enter in 2014. Don't do it. Let someone else win. That's something, I don't know how well you know me, but in my 59 years, hearing the words, let someone else win, is not good. But I let her talk me into it. I let them talk me into it. I don't even know who won that year, but we didn't. We could have, we would have, we should have, and we would have had 10 years in a row instead. It sounds better to say 10 years in a row than 9 out of 10. But this is a really fantastic program that I believe has branded Woodbridge statewide. We have a pretty good reputation for a lot of things, but I think the sustainability effort is one that every mayor pays attention to. I think 400 of the 600 towns, 560 towns in the state, 400 are in the program. That means they're constantly seeing Woodbridge, Woodbridge, Woodbridge at the top. They're seeing Carol on the board. They're seeing everybody active. So I think it's really helped. Residents talk to me about it all the time, because we're not shy about bragging about it in our newsletters and our Facebooks and our website. We talk about it all the time, and residents see it, and they really pay attention to it, and they really understand that Woodbridge is the greenest town in the state of New Jersey. So I want to thank Randy and this fantastic panel. This is like having, these 5 people here are like Judge Sanchez, Didi, Castro, and Bird. This is an all-star lineup up here, a fantastic group. You're going to have a wonderful presentation from them. So let me first introduce the lady responsible for all this. It was her idea to get in it. I say all the time, I've been mayor almost 11 years. I wouldn't have half the success I've had without having Carol Ehrlich by my side those entire 11 years. We became friends when she was on the council way back in 1996. She got elected in 1995. Worked on a bunch of things together. I left, went to Trenton. She came with me. I came back. She came off the council, came back with me. So we've been not only best friends, but co-workers, and just had a great relationship for the past 20 years. And again, I would be nothing without her. So I'd like to now introduce Carolyn Ehrlich.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for those very kind words. And we did take on the challenge of being Sustainable Jersey Champs. And when I first started doing it and I looked at all the actions, I said, oh my gosh. But as we went through them, we discovered that before we even started this program, we were a sustainable town, because our council people like Jimmy Carroll, Brenda Velasco was on the council at that time, and all of our directors were already doing things that were sustainable, that got us points. And what Sustainable Jersey did for us, the first thing they did was enabled us to put a ribbon around and a bow around all of the sustainability in Woodbridge. And we always, the towns like Highland Park and Maplewood, everybody said, oh, they're sustainable. And when we came in with all of our points, I think Randy and the guys at Sustainable Jersey were like, where did Woodbridge come from? And and we jumped out in front then, and we have stayed there. The first town, only town, to break 1,000 points, which is something that Randy will explain to you. But the reason why I thought it was important to bring Sustainable Jersey before the business community is because sustainability is a three-legged stool. It's the government, it's the residents, and it's the businesses. And there is a huge part that everybody sitting in this room can play. And so I just thought it would be helpful for you to learn about it, to understand why me, the mayor, and all of us are so enthusiastic about this program. I often call it Sustainability for Dummies, because the actions and the resources with each action are so clear, you can learn anything you want to do. And Randy will explain to you how it makes it easy. Before I hand the phone over to Randy, I just need to recognize Jeff Mayerowitz. He works with me, and there's a lot of paperwork involved in the submission. And Jeff does that. He works with all the directors. He has taken the torch from me and will not give it back, as much as I beg, of running the Sustainable Jersey program in Woodbridge. So thank you so much, Jeff. Okay, so as the Sustainable Jersey program started with mayors at the League of Municipality, and they wanted to do something. So they got together as a group, and they went and they talked to Randy Solomon, who really did all the research and put the program together. And since that time, he has built up a staff, and he works with that staff to keep this program going and growing. He is the heart and soul of Sustainable Jersey. So I'd like to turn the program over to Randy Solomon, the Executive Director of Sustainable Jersey.
Thanks, Carol. Well, I want to start off by acknowledging the fact that if I'm the heart and soul, that's a shared responsibility with a lot of people. This came from mayors and municipalities originally, but Sustainable Jersey is a partnership. It is the business community, it is state agencies, it is local leaders coming together to try to think about what we can do together to solve New Jersey's most pressing problems, economic, social, environmental issues. And so when we talk about sustainability, and I want to focus on that a little bit, what do we mean? Sustainability, I think, has an environmental connotation, but sustainability really, when you think about the root of the word, it means sustaining, right? Sustaining what we do, who we are. So sustainability is really about sustaining our economy, sustaining our quality of life, it's about thinking long term, beyond the next election cycle, beyond the next quarterly report, and addressing the issues that are going to determine the kind of communities that we have. So Sustainable Jersey came about basically out of frustration, honestly, because there were a lot of mayors who cared about these issues, saw a lot of problems that they wanted to tackle, and they were frustrated with the legislature in New Jersey. They certainly were frustrated with, weren't expecting any help from Washington, D.C. But there's a lot of goodwill in New Jersey, got a lot of goodwill in state agencies, a lot of goodwill in the business community, a lot of goodwill at the local level. And so we decided to try to come together to take advantage of some of the real strengths that exist in New Jersey when you think about how our government is organized and how our state is organized. And one of those key strengths, and depending on who you talk to, you might think that's a weakness, but we want to make sure that it is a strength, is the large number of really powerful municipalities that we have in the state of New Jersey. We have 565 municipalities in New Jersey, and in our system of government, those municipalities, compared to state and county and other levels of government, have a tremendous amount of authority. This is a home rule state, and that has really practical implications. But the fact that we've got so many municipalities means they've got a lot of authority, but in many cases, it's impractical to expect every single one of those municipalities to have a good handle on land use policy, economic development, energy, solid waste. These are all really complex technical issues. And not every town, I have to say, has got the same, the same strength of staff and elected leadership that I have to say that Woodbridge is. And I happen to be at Woodbridge. They happen to be our champion. But this is not an exaggeration to say that this is probably the most efficiently run, well-run municipality that I've seen in the state of New Jersey. But Woodbridge, even in Woodbridge, as Carol said, one of the things that our program did was it highlighted things that they're already doing. But I think Carol would admit that Woodbridge has learned a lot and benefited a lot from the program as well. So in some ways, we serve as kind of the policy shop, or the shop that gives ideas and resources to municipalities all across the state, and now schools, to help them achieve their local sustainability goals. So that's what sustainability is. It's addressing those issues, whether it's energy, waste, water, making sure the local economy is strong, making sure you've got the kind of quality of life in the community that you want to have, and figuring out what it is we need to do to make sure that we are sustaining those things, preserving those things, so that they will be here for us in the future. And that absolutely positively includes growing the economy. So Sustainable Jersey was founded as a partnership between the League of Municipalities and a bunch of mayors who wanted to make progress. We got together with some leaders in state agencies. It was not political. It was sort of like at the staff level for the most part, as well as some key allies from the business community. And a little while, Anne-Marie Proctor is going to talk about that as well. And some of those early leaders included New Jersey Natural Gas and PSEG, who's one of our largest supporters, but there's a long list of corporations. And we tried to think about what we could do in New Jersey to move forward with, for lack of a better term, kind of the coalition of the willing. Who wants to work on this stuff, not be engaged in the big picture politics that seems to bog us down, but just work at the local level and kind of pool our resources to make progress. So Sustainable Jersey, at its core, is a certification program for municipalities and now schools. So we've got the specific criteria that we think that a municipality could do and should do to solve these really pressing problems. And these are things that can be done at the local level, that solve local problems, but also add up to solving our statewide problems. And so an example would be energy. We're going to hear more about energy in a minute from my colleague Nancy Cork. But greenhouse gas emissions, for example, in the state, and dealing with climate change, we've got a statewide goal for what we want to do in climate change, but that's going to require action in every single municipality to achieve that goal. So local action that solves local problems, but at the same time contributes to solving statewide problems. So we come up with the objective criteria for what we think municipalities could do in areas such as energy and local economies and dealing with municipal operations and maintenance and dealing with brownfields and building design and land use and transportation, natural resources, emergency management and resiliency, health and wellness, public information and engagement, sustainability planning and climate planning, dealing with arts and creative culture. So it's a very broad array of things. And at the front table, there was a handout that actually has a list of all the different criteria. And if you'll notice, there are 10 points each, 20 points each for implementing them. So when Carol said they're the first town to get over 1,000 points, they're hitting all these things. They're adding up a lot of points. And each one of these, if you go onto our website and you click on it, it is a fully fleshed out, fully resourced guide on how to implement the best practice along with a rigorous standard. So to get Sustainable Jersey certified, a municipality has to implement the stuff and then submit very rigorous documentary evidence to prove that they met our standard, that they implemented it. So it's not fluff. And you can go on our website, and there's a big map on the website, and you can click on any town, and you can see what they actually did. So you can go on our website, and you can see all the things that Woodbridge did. And if it says in there that they did energy audits and upgrades for all the municipal buildings, you can actually see the energy audits that they did. You can actually download the energy audit. It's at that level of detail, all these things. So, we have the objective criteria for what municipalities can and should do, but we also realize that most municipalities, most mayors, most chiefs of staff and business administrators are not sitting around twiddling their thumbs with all their extra time and money thinking about what new things can we do that Randy Solomon and his crew can think of. So we provide resources to municipalities to help them implement it. We provide technical assistance. We provide money in the form of grants to help these towns implement, again, things that they want to do, but they need help to do it. And those resources don't just come from my, little mid-sized nonprofit. They come from a very broad coalition that includes scores of businesses, many major state agencies who are all looking at this list and saying, they're creating this list. They're the ones that are coming together to say, what are the things that municipalities need help doing, giving them the specific guidance to implement it through the program, and then collaborating to say what kind of grants do they need, what kind of technical assistance do they need. And so the support to implement Sustainable Jersey comes from, again, scores of other entities. It comes from the utilities, it comes from many different offices and agencies of state government, and scores of other nonprofits that have all got something to offer. And as you go through the program, we are pointing the municipalities to those resources. So layered throughout this is the help that a town would need to move forward. So it starts, when I say it's sort of like the coalition of the willing, again, this is really, it's a non-political, non-regulatory, voluntary movement of people in government and in the private sector, just figuring out what do towns need to move forward and what support can we give them. So it's pretty unique. It's catching on in other states. I just asked the Mayor McCormick if he'd be willing to keynote in Connecticut because they're copying us and they're going to launch Sustainable Connecticut soon. So this is a really interesting program. So what's in it for local businesses, though? And so I want to talk a little bit about that before I yield the mic. At some point, Carolyn's going to kick me under the table. When we talk about sustainability, most people probably know that most large corporations have got a sustainability program, a sustainability officer, a sustainability report. It's built into their corporate DNA. But I think when you think about small businesses and especially the relationship to the communities that they're in, sustainability is extremely important, and I want to go over a few of those things. First off, in Sustainable Jersey, we've got a whole section on building local economies because we think that is a key to sustainability. And I had a really wonderful conversation with Nancy Drum, one of your councilwomen, and I also believe Debbie Meehan are the two people really involved in promoting the Sustainable Jersey slate of actions that deal with local economies. And in our program, we've got things that municipalities could do, such as a green business recognition program, supporting those businesses that are going to take the values of sustainability and build it into their business practices, and figuring out how to recognize them and how to help them get more market share in the community, so that people who want to support those types of businesses know how to find you. That's really critical. A buy local campaign, just let's keep the money in town, and then people burn less fuel driving other places to spend their money. And different ways that the municipality can support local businesses. For example, making it easier for local businesses to get municipal contracts. But then we're dealing with other things, such as how to make this just a really awesome place to be, because that's something that's going to support businesses. So dealing with making it a bicycle and pedestrian friendly town, having a beautiful downtown that's at a walkable scale that people just want to come to and hang out in, dealing with effective parking management, doing transit-oriented development, so having a zoning system that makes it easy for you to put in the kind of density and the kind of mixed use and the kind of stores that are going to make it around your train stations and around your other critical assets that are going to make this an awesome place to be, and are really going to be a boon to the businesses there and grow the economy. A big part of this is arts and creative culture, but arts and creative culture as a tool for development and as a tool for economic development. So again, we want people to come to Woodbridge, we want people to linger here, we want people to spend money here, and thinking about your creative team and using arts and entertainment as a way to get people here and as a way to come here and feel like they're in a place that really matters and a place that the residents and the businesses care about it. And it just stands out. That is going to be really good for business. We also have a whole section in here on resiliency to disasters and emergency management planning. So right now in Puerto Rico, and we should keep them in our prayers and in our minds, but right now in Puerto Rico, the entire island, the entire nation is without power. And so there's not a single business that is open right now. After Hurricane Sandy, depending on where you were in the state, your power was off for a week, for up to a month. And if you're a business, you want to be located in a town that's going to be down for a week. Or if you're in Woodbridge, after they've got their microgrid in place, you might be down not at all. So that is something that is really important for business. And so we've got things in here that are looking at what is going to make a town resilient to natural disasters in the future. So we're looking at microgrids and dealing with extreme temperature, and also dealing with things like a tree hazard inventory. So are you out there identifying all the trees that are likely to fall on power lines? And if you are, then you're less likely to have the power go down. And these are just little things that make this a business-friendly place. So I will conclude by saying that Woodbridge has been an incredible champion for Sustainable Jersey because, for one thing, as Carol said, she's exactly right. I live in Highland Park. Highland Park prided itself as a green community, but then I think as soon as we came up with the standards and the way to prove it, let's track who's really doing it. We were all shocked to see where Woodbridge came out, and this created a really happy and virtuous competition between Woodbridge and Highland Park, I have to say. Highland Park got its butt in gear, and the number of points that Highland Park has gotten and the things that Highland Park has initiated have gone way up, thanks in no small part to Woodbridge, and the friendly competition continues. Luckily, we've got a category for small town and big town, so Highland Park is right up there as one of the champions in the small town category, and Woodbridge is in the big town. And I want to thank Carol and also the mayor for being receptive to our crazy ideas, because we are constantly innovating the new best practice, and we want to try it out somewhere before we take it statewide. Because one of the things that is part of our compact with our towns in Sustainable Jersey is that if you implement the stuff in here, it's going to work. It's been vetted. If you're a mayor, if you do this, you're going to get reelected. Woodbridge is one of those places where we can come with an idea and say, hey, we think this could work. We need a strong partner to try it out. And Mayor McCormick and Carol and her team make that happen. So I want to thank you for that. And before I go, I just have to say, Joe Grillo, you're going to meet Nancy Quirk, who's on my staff. Joe Grillo is our development director. He's working the room. So if you want to get involved in Sustainable Jersey, feel free to talk to any of us. And so I want to thank the mayor and thank Carol for having us here. And thank all of you.
Thank you, Randy. Our next speaker is Nancy Quirk, and she is the Energy Program Manager. And energy is something that everybody can work on reducing. And she will tell you how, but this is where. So the mayor told you when we entered this, he said you have to win. So now what Sustainable Jersey has done is they've put in a gold level. And so now he says, well, you have to be gold. The only problem is to be gold. They put the standards like up to the sky. And the ironic part is that I chair the Standards and Certification Committee. And they brought ideas from the task forces that put this together. Nancy brought ideas to us. And I raised my hand and I go, no, that's too hard. That can't happen. I got outvoted every time. But the standards for gold should be high, and they should be difficult to attain. And we can only attain the gold status if all the businesses and all of our residents work with us. Because one of the things that we need to do, aside from lowering the energy usage of the government, we have to lower the energy usage of the whole entire community. So I'm asking all of you today to listen to Nancy, listen to the ideas that she gives you on ways that we can lower energy and help us achieve gold so that I don't have to take any grief from the mayor. And so here is Nancy Quirk to tell you how to do it.
Good morning, and thank you all for coming out to hear more about sustainability, and thank you very much for that introduction and overview of Sustainable Jersey. I want to echo. Sure. Want to echo what Carolyn had said about it takes the government, it takes the businesses, and it takes the residents in the community. So it's sort of a three-legged stool, and then I'm going to add another set of threes to that, and then dive in a little bit more. So in our program, we have what we call our actions, and they focus in on energy efficiency, renewable energy, and fleets and transportation. Right now, our focus is really on electric vehicles, but there's a wide array of vehicle options out there, particularly if you manage a fleet. So I want to talk a little bit more widely about that. Our actions have step-by-step guidance for municipal facilities and for schools. And I'm going to dive in on a little bit of that, but I want to make it clear that this step-by-step guidance in the energy space is directly applicable to each business owner or manager. So if you're a fleet manager at the government sector, a fleet manager in a business, doing a fleet inventory is sort of a first step. So let me start first, though, with the buildings and energy efficiency in buildings. There's a couple of basic things that I'm just curious about in the audience. How many of you actually, yourself or someone on your staff on a regular basis, looks at that utility bill on a monthly basis? You track your energy use regularly. Okay, so if you don't know how much is being used, you can't manage it kind of thing. If you can't, measure it, can't manage it kind of thing. That's a basic first step, and that's in our actions, energy tracking and management. Very simple, just set up a spreadsheet, look at your utility bills and find out. You may actually find that there are some spikes. This goes for energy or for water. If you've got a spike in a water bill, you may have a problem. You may have a leaky pipe that you don't know about, roof's going to cave in soon. Keep track of your energy use. And the next thing you can do is actually use what we call benchmarking. In other words, you have a particular facility of certain square feet and so forth. Lots of other businesses around the country might look pretty much like yours. So if you're a restaurant, cafe, bookstore, you can actually see how another business of exactly the same square footage and type of business as yours, how much energy they use. You know, what's the sort of national standard? That's called benchmarking. And if you, on the EPA website, there's Energy Star Portfolio Manager where you can type in your utility bills and it'll pop back a number for you. It's like you're in the 90th percentile. In other words, you're as good as, you know, or better than 90% of the other bookstores in the country. So you can actually see how your facility compares. That goes for municipal, goes for schools, goes for firehouses, libraries, restaurants, grocery stores, you name it. So those are good ways to just kind of get your first glimpse of how you're doing in your energy use. The next best step is an energy audit. So I'm actually going to take another poll and see if you know if your facility has been audited. Have you had an energy audit? Yay. So what is an energy audit? Someone with technical expertise will come to your facility, and again, we know that, of course, Woodbridge has definitely done energy audits in a lot of our towns, and like Randy said, you can actually go on our website, open up any town on that map, look at their report, and actually look at the audit. They're about 100, 150 pages long. This is serious work. So a technical expert will come to your facility and take an assessment of your building envelope. Do you have any leaky roofs? Look at your machinery. What's the end of life of that machinery? You know, is it due to be replaced soon? Let's look at replacing it with more energy efficient machinery. You know, checking out your HVAC, your refrigeration, all of the equipment that you might be using in your facility, making sure it's working up to snuff, finding out if there's a place to, you know, a better replacement for that. Certainly your lighting. An energy audit looks very detailed at your equipment. They will sit down with you and go over your bills. They will assess, you know, where you can do better. And the energy audit will then identify exactly what you might want to do. They'll give you a list in order. What are the best things you can do? And they will tell you your return on investment. When is this payback going to come in? How much is this going to cost? And how much is it going to save you in energy? So I'm going to talk in a bit about some of the incentive programs for doing this, but these are the basic steps to getting a handle on your energy use and finding out how your facility is functioning. I do want to mention as an aside that you definitely want to take regular checkup on your equipment, your operations, your maintenance. Is all the equipment tuned up at all times? That's called retro commissioning. And that can actually save you a lot of energy. So you don't have to replace a thing. You do have to use it. If you got all new lighting controls and your staff are not trained on using the lighting or heating and ventilation controls as it was intended, you're not going to have the energy savings. So making sure you keep up to snuff on those sorts of things. And then the big step, actually doing the work. So I want to point out, and I put brochures on every table. I don't know if I got enough on every table. This direct install brochure to really highlight for you that one of our partners, the Board of Public Utilities and the Jersey Clean Energy Program, has a huge incentive program to help you out. So I've already asked a couple questions, so I won't ask this one, but I will say, if your peak demand is less than 200 kW over the course of a year, and if you're not tracking your utility bills, you might not know this. That's why I didn't want to take another poll. You qualify for an incentive of up to 70% of the cost of those retrofits. Someone will come in and assess your facility and your equipment. You have to pay the other 30%, but I believe New Jersey Natural Gas and PSEG will allow you to pay that back on bill, so it's off-balance sheet financing, paid back over time, generally reasonable interest rates for that other 30%. That's a 70% incentive. I wanted to make sure that brochure got in everyone's hands for that energy efficiency work. Let me actually turn my page. So I'm going to switch now to fleets. Let me get my page open. And invite you to think about then your fleets. So one of our actions in the municipal program invites the municipality, and they will have a very diverse fleet. Yours might be relatively small. Do a fleet inventory. Find out what you have. The fleet inventory is not just listing all your vehicles, but actually capturing the use of that vehicle. How many miles is it driven? Could you actually size down your fleet and have fewer vehicles in your fleet, because each one requires insurance and maintenance and upkeep? Reduce that number of vehicles in the fleet and increase the amount of car sharing that you do amongst those vehicles. Getting a handle on your fleet is just as important as getting a handle on your energy use overall in your buildings. We do want to encourage you to think about replacing vehicles with electric vehicles. There are a lot of incredible incentives. One of them with PSEG right now is a $10,000 incentive if you're in PSEG territory. That's pretty significant, plus $7,500 tax credit. That's a chunk of change. So keep your eye on electric vehicles. That's for a Nissan Leaf, 2017 Nissan Leaf. And for other vehicles in your fleet, compressed natural gas, other types of fuels may be much more efficient and reduce your overall operations and maintenance costs for those vehicles. The last thing, or not the last thing, but the last thing on fleets that I want to say, and I know that Woodbridge is using this, well over time, something called telematics. So that's a way of optimizing the routing of your vehicles to reduce vehicle miles traveled. Totally reduces the number of miles you put on those vehicles, and obviously then the fuel costs that you have. So all of these things are written in our program to walk municipalities through getting a handle on their energy use and reducing that energy use, and overall, as we say, protecting the environment. I don't want to leave without talking about the other brochure I put on your table, which is the residential energy efficiency. So I'll keep that real quick. I've kind of gone through the basics in probably more detail than anyone expected. But anyway, the residential incentive programs, Home Performance with Energy Star, is the very same process. Someone will come to your house, a trained technician, they'll look at your utility bills, how are you doing there, they'll take an assessment of your house, and really in all cases this assessment will lead to healthier indoor air quality, more comfort, no more cold rooms, hot rooms, and so forth. Safer environment, they'll check all of your combustion appliances, your gas, water heaters, and so forth. Comfort, health, safety, and savings. They will identify where you can save money. So as Caroline said, we need businesses, we need residents, and we need the municipal governments to step up to the plate and do everything possible to reduce their energy use. Sorry for taking more time than I allotted.
Thank you, Nancy. As a little footnote to that, and I'm sure everybody here will agree, the mayor always tells us there are two greens, and if we can't achieve both greens, don't do it. It's the green of the environment and it's the green of the money, and he's always watching the taxpayer money. And with the kind of things that Nancy was talking about, you can achieve those both greens. And just to give you an example, Vito, who is the director of recreation and runs the community center right now, I think they're starting today, was it? Next week. You've all been there. You know how many lights there are in the community center, and we're replacing those lights. Amazing, amazing rebate. And Vito, how long did you say it was for the payback period? 5 years it will all be paid back. So I really encourage you to take a look at what you have. Lights are the low-hanging fruit. You can save money and you can save the environment. Okay, our next speaker is Anne Marie Paracchio, who is with New Jersey Natural Gas. She is the Conservation and Affordability Director. And the reason why I asked Anne Marie to speak is, first of all, because she's a businesswoman, but secondly, because she sits on the board of Sustainable Jersey with me. And I imagine on every board, there's one person who always has the solution, always has the wise thing to say. And that's Anne Marie. She's just one of the people that I really respect. So I asked her to come today, and I'm so happy that she is here. Thank you, Anne Marie.
And I appreciate the kind words, but honestly, Carolyn is one of those people on the board too. And she is a grounding force because she can really bring the experience of Woodbridge as they go through the program. So I'm going to shift gears a little, and instead of talking about the program itself, I'm going to focus it more on the story of why New Jersey Natural Gas is involved. Since we're tight on time, I'll skip the poll, but I could have asked all the businesses to raise their hand, and then asked all the businesses who are used to being asked for money to raise their hand, and I think it'd be hard to find the hand that didn't stay up for who's asked for money. So when Sustainable Jersey was first being born, we were asked to sponsor it. And based on our relationship with the league and the ideas that they were talking about, we said sure. So we sponsored it sight unseen. And you know that when you're being asked to sponsor things all the time, you're always trying to decide what's the value in it. And that's what I want to shift from when we sponsored it sight unseen, just kind of based on faith, to why we have continued to sponsor it and actually increased our sponsorship because of the value that we see in it. I think you can look at it as an investment as much as a sponsorship because of what it does. I kind of bucket it into two areas. One is about it's really supporting our communities, and as a utility, we're tied to our community, so everything that's good for our communities is good for us. It really is a structure that makes things easier. So after that first initial leap of faith as a sponsor, the first time that it clicked for us that this is worth the money was when we saw the website. And I spend half my time on programs and half my time in policy. And on the policy world, sometimes it's easy to get discouraged because you can feel like it's not making a difference, or you could work really hard on a policy report that might sit on the shelf and not get implemented. But this was so concrete and real in terms of seeing the actions. So I know that the folders are out there, and Randy touched on a bunch of them, but as he mentioned, you can go in there and you can dig into each one to see it. It's when you go in there and you look at it that you really see how it's packaged. It's about making things easier for each municipality instead of someone having to go in and explain, here's the best way to do that type of thing. It puts all that information there so that when a municipality is interested in doing one of those things, they can just click on it and they can see, here's about the timeline that you need. Here's the resources that you need. These are the types of people it makes sense to involve. Here's some success stories of others that do it. Here are the resources that are there to help, like the energy ones that Nancy just went through. And seeing how it made life easier for our municipalities was the kind of thing that we knew it was great, because we serve more than 100 municipalities and we could never provide that level of service one-on-one with really helping them understand a better way to do some things. So it was great in terms of seeing it real. But then that gets reinforced for us every single year through two key pieces. One is the interaction with the green teams that we see. Certainly the most compelling one is each year at the League of Municipalities. The League event kicks off with a luncheon on Tuesday afternoon. And that room is filled, the Sheridan Ballroom. I'm sure many of you have been in there. And it's the energy that you see from those green teams and hearing how excited they are about it. And also, too, with Woodbridge, again, with the points, there's an audible gasp every year when the other green teams hear how many points Woodbridge has gotten. But it's seeing that energy and knowing it. And then as we are someone who has a booth on the floor of the league, and we are recognized as a sponsor there, and green team members come up to us and they share their story. So it's reinforced in terms of helping us see how much it's helping them. And then on an ongoing basis, too, there are e-blasts that are available for Sustainable Jersey. So if you're just hearing about it for the first time and want to understand more about it, I'd suggest you sign up for that. Every 2 weeks or so, an e-blast comes out, and you can see how rich it is, and then also see the range of things, and certainly see opportunities that make sense for, yeah, that aligns with my business. That makes sense. That's something I can help support. And so that's, I think, a great segue into, other than just helping the municipalities for, the sake of society, selfishly, how does it help New Jersey Natural Gas? Nancy already mentioned the energy efficiency programs. So we have a suite of those ourselves. And it really helps by getting municipalities interested in doing those actions and seeing the resources that we have available. So we message a lot of that on our own, but they are so connected and interested in getting the points, and then also they're aware that those action items make it easier for them to do that. So it's really putting it together for them in an easy capacity.
And I can give a concrete story in terms of really seeing the difference. One thing we haven't touched on so far this morning is there's also a companion program, Sustainable Jersey for Schools. That is newer, and that was actually created because the School Boards Association and a lot of their partner groups saw how great the municipality program was and approached us to say we should have a similar program. So that one's much newer, but is growing rapidly. And before that Sustainable Jersey for Schools existed, we had a free schools program where we were coming in, giving a resource with some benchmarking tools, some other individual things that schools could do to help save energy. And it was a struggle to give some of those free resources away because, you know, schools, municipalities, they're all busy. So they've got so much that comes into that inbox every single day, trying to help figure out what's the right things to focus on and what's at the top of your to-do list is tough. So we actually didn't even get all of the ones we wanted to give away, even though it was a free resource. You advance to just within the past 3 years, we have another program that's called Power Save for Schools, which is something we sponsor from the Alliance to Save Energy. And by partnering with Sustainable Jersey for Schools, those ones who are participating, each year we've been able to fill the capacity that we had. We started with 15 schools and 31 schools, and it was because that Sustainable Jersey network was putting that information out. So it made our life easier as someone who's trying to get more people engaged in our programs. So there's two sides to how you can benefit from it. And I think you'd be hard-pressed, because of all the areas that it covers, to not figure out a way that it could really benefit you. So looking at the back of the sheets there, you can see all the sponsors that are there. We can certainly connect you with other people so that you don't just hear New Jersey Natural Gas's story. But we have more recent sponsors that are in your footprint as well here too. Investors Bank is someone who came on recently, Elizabethtown Gas. So we can help connect you with people who have more recent stories about why they decided to become a sponsor and saw the value in it. So it really is just a great opportunity for us, and we are supportive beyond just our dollars. We're active in the task forces, and I serve on the board as well. And as I said, I don't consider it just a sponsorship. I consider it an investment because of how well it supports just all the communities that are out there. Joe is here, and he'd be happy to talk to anybody if you want to learn more or talk to other people in the industry. And as well, too, conversations with Randy and Nancy to find out other things that are coming. A few friends here in the water industry. There's some interesting stuff they're starting to do on water now. So it's definitely worth your time to look at it. And with that, I can actually hand it over to another sponsor, even though he's not wearing his sponsor hat for his conversation. Or am I supposed to hand it back to you? Back to Carol. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sitting here at the dais, and my direct line of vision goes to Amy Belisano. And I just want to point out, because I'm sure she's not the only business in town that is truly sustainable. They have more solar panels, like they're putting up more on their parking lot. They track everything, all the things that Nancy talked about. Amy's shaking her head. They do it, they do it, they do it. And I want to recognize Amy and everybody else in this room that is already doing it. So thank you. And talking about already doing it, Bayshore is, they are unbelievable. Greenable Woodbridge, which does a lot, has only one sponsor, and that is Bayshore. And so like when one of the middle schools came to us and they said they wanted to put in something that will filter the water so that the kids can just come in with their bottles and fill them up, I said, sure, we'll help you do that. And I called Gary and I called Valerie and I go, can we pay for that? And they go, yeah. And then they do the same thing for the chamber, for the state organization of Sustainable Jersey. Their generosity is unbelievable. And it's also the time that Valerie allows Gary to give us. And I'm not going to steal any of his speech, but he's always there working with us. So the other area of gold that Sustainable Jersey has now is in recycling. percentage that we have to recycle, I got to tell you, Woodbridge is very far away. It's going to take us years to get there. And our weakest recycling area is our businesses. So we see if you can get some hints from Gary on how you can help the town be more sustainable and recycle more. So I give you Gary Sotomayor.
Thank you, Carol. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes with you. I want to first thank Carol, because the only reason I can stand here and talk about Sustainable Jersey is Carol. She invited me to be part of the program. And I also want to thank Valerie and Frank Montecalvo, and Carol just basically said what Bayshore is kind of all about, but they not only talk the talk, they walk the walk. We are the largest recycling company in the state of New Jersey. We're also committed to renewable energy, and the engagement even beyond what we do with Bayshore for other organizations. We're on the boards of directors of 12 different organizations that try to push the envelope and advance the cause of environmental management and sustainability, not only here in Woodbridge, but across the whole state. So what I'd like to talk about is my love for the Sustainable Jersey program, and to explain sort of why I feel that way. I worked for 30 years before joining Bayshore with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. I had the honor of being the chief of staff of that agency for 10 years under the last 6 New Jersey governors. But what we were at DEP is a command and control regulatory agency. So what we did is we wrote rules and regulations out the wazoo. We issued permits that were extraordinarily complex that most people unfortunately couldn't even understand. And we had a small army of people that would go out and inspect you. And if you weren't good, we would write you tickets and we would fine you. And if you were really bad, we would try to put you in jail and take away your business. That's command and control. And I don't want to belittle that. It was extremely important coming out of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s and a legacy of environmental degradation and pollution that we had. So there was a place for it. But is that really the way? Is that the most effective way to get things done? The most effective thing I was ever engaged with at the state level was coordinating for 10 years Homeland Security planning, and DEP had a big role in that. And we work with all the chemical plants, the petroleum refineries and terminals, the nuclear power plants, the water companies, wastewater, pharmaceutical, biotechnology, 1,800 dams across the state. We had about 2,500 pieces of critical infrastructure that we needed to get secure. And we didn't do that through command and control, and that's sort of the point of mentioning it. It was through voluntary programs where we sat down with the leaders of industry and of government, and we cranked out best security practices that have been enormously effective. And the point of telling that little story is that's what Sustainable Jersey really is. And it's better because in the Homeland Security example, we kind of went from the top down. We went from the governor, from the leaders of corporations, and pushed these security measures down. Sustainable Jersey works from the ground level up, and through green teams, and it's collaboration, it's working together. You know, and Sustainable Jersey is this room. So it's the leadership of Mayor McCormick and Carol. I'll go around a little bit. It's Vito and what he does with the community center. It's Jeff, the rock behind the scenes, coordinating so much of the important administrative functions. It's Dennis Henry and Public Works, which has a huge role in Sustainable Jersey. Audrey Rosger, the recycling coordinator. Marta Lefsky, what she does with the planning function. It's Middlesex Water. It's Dennis, it's Byrne, and what they do and what they bring to the table. It's Amy. I think Amy's on every committee that exists in Woodbridge Township, and the model is the mall and what's done. Of course, it's Valerie. It's Investors Bank, who have now come to the table in sponsorship. So it's really collaboration and leadership through Nancy Drum, Councilwoman Meehan. You know, and again, I can go on and on and on. I could probably name everybody in the room. What I want to do in my remaining time is talk a little bit of what have we done in Sustainable Jersey in Woodbridge. And I wear a number of different hats, and no offense to Randy, but my favorite hat is working with Carol on the Woodbridge Green Team and sitting down with all the folks and figuring out what we're going to do to be more sustainable. So I just want to like shotgun through a number of the things we've done, and I really can't do it justice. It's so big. We'd need like a whole day seminar to talk about it. But I'll mention a few. We did, and it's one of my favorites, kind of personally, we went into a couple of the high schools. We went to Colonia with Chantel Griffer. We went into JFK with Ricky Viteri, and we did waste audits. So what's a waste audit? This is not a really good breakfast topic, I'm sorry, but we actually worked with the kids. We had the kids go around and collect all the garbage generated in the high school for a day, wheel it down in little wheelie carts that the custodians lent us, and weigh it very systematically, and then dump it on a big tarp in the cafeteria. And then the kids went through and sifted through all the waste and pulled out all the stuff that shouldn't have been there because it should have been in a recycling bucket. Then we did the same thing with all the recyclables that were generated that day, put them on a tarp, and we looked for waste that was in the recycling that should have been in a recycling bucket. And like you had to see doing this with all these kids. I think at JFK we had 100 kids. The ick factor was really high. And a lot of these kids were like, oh, man, garbage really does stink, because I don't think they ever took it out at home. But it was an experience for them. But what it did is it left an indelible mark in their consciousness about what they should be doing. And it's very, very powerful. And then, like, you take that and you make it a learning exercise. So in these high schools, they're going to do it again. They're going to track their recycling rate and how they're going to improve. And they're going to try to use the environmental club and the ecology club and drive sustainability as an education tool. So very, very effective. And I'm going to jump around because these things aren't all just Sustainable Jersey. And we run a great program. And in this case, it's a town. Like Carol, Mayor, and Bob Landolfi do, all your programs kind of complement each other. They kind of run together. So these aren't just exclusively Sustainable Jersey things, but they're all related. Buy local. Councilwoman Nancy Drum, Councilwoman Meehan, our group that gets together. We have a Buy Local app, which hopefully everybody's using. It is, I think, very, very effective tool in the town. Just did a holiday pledge, right? And everybody hopefully here will sign up to pledge to do your holiday shopping in Woodbridge Township. Do you have to go anywhere else? I mean, really? Then we have like every store known to humankind in Woodbridge Township. It's fantastic. And then when you go out and buy stuff, go eat somewhere because we got every restaurant that exists in humankind in Woodbridge Township. It's awesome. It's a great pledge. It's a great thing to do. Another app is a My Waste app that through Carol and Dennis Henry in Public Works, you can go on your iPhone and you can find out exactly what is and isn't recyclable in Woodbridge Township and Middlesex County. Really effective tool, particularly for millennials. And for older people like me, we do a good old-fashioned calendar, which tells you what is and isn't recyclable and all the collection days for waste. Complete Streets Initiative. Get out, be more active. Bike paths throughout the township. Walkable streets in Woodbridge Township. Community Solar Pilot Project to put solar energy on homes. And talking to Jeff, I think the stat was something like 7 applications of homeowner per month in Woodbridge Township for home solar. Isn't that amazing? I mean, that is absolutely tremendous. Alternative Fueled Vehicle Infrastructure Work Group. Whew, long word. What does that mean? Marta Levsky just led a task force where we looked at how we can bring electric charging stations for vehicles to Woodbridge Township to make that electric cars more workable. The problem is really charging capability. And this is coming. This is coming. If you haven't saw it in the news, Volvo announced very recently that they're going to stop manufacturing internal combustion engine vehicles. England has announced they're going to ban internal combustion vehicles down the road in generations to come. Because that's where we're going. And Woodbridge Township is already on the cusp of trying to figure out how to do that more effectively. Earth Day Environmental Fair, go to it every year. It's terrific. Kathy Woolley from the Environmental Commission puts that together. It's a terrific program. The Bio Blitz. How many people, show of hands here, have been to the Ernie Oros Preserve? Not too many. Well, there's like a homework assignment. It is a phenomenal resource that the township has worked on developing. And I grew up in a tenement in downtown Patterson, so I'm like a city kid. This property is like less than a mile from Rahway State Prison and Route 1, and it is a jewel. It's an absolute jewel. And Tom Flynn, working with Carol, did a BioBlitz where they brought in 21 professors, scientists, volunteers from Rutgers, a zillion volunteers from Woodbridge Township, and they stayed all night. They stayed 24 hours, and they documented how many species were in this preserve. And the number, 388 different species, 51 species just of birds. And the point of that is it's an incredibly healthy ecosystem. And they've put in boardwalks and interpretive signs and all this kind of stuff. Get out there and enjoy it. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Randy had mentioned that Sustainable Jersey is a lot more than just the environment that it is. And, I can't say enough about the Station Village Arts Center coming in Avenel. It's going to be another terrific resource for Woodbridge Township and the whole region. The community center, back to Vito. This was a property that got cleaned up, made into a recreation facility. Again, gosh, growing up in Patterson, I never envisioned that a town could have a facility like that. It is absolutely off the charts. And what does it really represent? The town taking over, it's a major commitment in wellness. And where is public health going? It's not to be in a hospital and get sick and get better. It's to be healthy and to be well. So the work you do is outstanding and totally advances sustainability. And finally, the use of a tool like TV35. What a great thing, right? And very parochially, after doing the pitch, there was Carol and Valerie starred in a half-hour program on how recycling works in Woodbridge Township, from the kitchen and what you can and can't recycle to how it gets transported, how it comes to Bay Shore. We take it all back apart and send it out to Marketplace to make new stuff. Absolutely terrific. So let me close. I get excited, I'm sorry. And make a pitch to all of you in the business community. We're involved at Bay Shore because the program makes sense. It's voluntary. We have a seat at the table. We can help drive programs in directions that are good for business. And you have that opportunity too. We are major investors financially in Sustainable Jersey. We also walk the walk, hopefully, with our time and our commitment to the program. Please think about being involved. And I'll just close by saying I really can't stress enough the job that the mayor, Carol, Bob Landolfi have done for the image of Woodbridge Township, because I'm all around the state all the time. And Woodbridge is sort of like the beacon of sustainability. And what I love the most is that you're never done. And the mayor and Carol know that. And they keep pushing the envelope to go further, to become more and more sustainable. And we are absolutely honored at Bay Shore Recycling to be a small part of the Woodbridge Green Team. Thank you very much.
So as you can see, all of us up here are very passionate about Sustainable Jersey, and I hope that you can share some of that passion. Before I close, I want to thank Karen Barnes and the Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this event and allowing us to be here, and all of the great sponsors that helped. And when I do my Greenable Woodbridge TV show, I end every show with these words: thank you for being part of the change and for part of the excitement. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having the vision and the passion to get this job done. So we appreciate that. How about another big round of applause for our speakers? Before I let you out of the room, I have a little bit of housekeeping. I inadvertently missed one of our very dedicated sponsors earlier, and I apologize. It's my first rodeo today, so Investors Bank. Big round of applause for Investors Bank. I'd also like to recognize, if you want to stand up or raise your hands, our board of directors from the Woodbridge Metro Chamber of Commerce, if you're here, and if you're on the board, thank you. Their support goes a long way. Of course, as always, Karen and Nancy. Nothing gets done without them. Karen Barnes, Nancy Drum, thank you. If you know anyone that isn't part of our Chamber of Commerce, you really need to let them know that this is an opportunity to grow their business and reach out for Nancy Drum so that they can become a member. A couple other items. We have the Women's Leadership, which is an amazing opportunity to come out and learn some great things. It's been phenomenal. I haven't been there myself, but I've been told by all the ladies in my office that they love it. That's October 5th. There are some other dates on the back of your program. October 18th, our Chairman's Awards Dinner. Again, if you haven't been to that, whether you're a member of the Chamber or a guest here today, it's a phenomenal event. It's our, 50-something anniversary, and it goes strong, and it's really great. So October 18th. December 4th is our holiday luncheon, 12 noon at the Renaissance Hotel. Again, another fun event. And then for those of you who have never gone, the State of the Township, which is January 30th at the Renaissance Hotel, 12 noon, is an event not to be missed. I won't say any more about it, but if your curiosity is piqued, please do not miss out on that one. I'd also like to recognize Mayor Brian Waller from Piscataway. We missed you earlier. Where are you? There he is. Thank you, Mayor. The fact that you guys come out to hear about what's going on in Woodbridge and the community really makes a big impact on us, and we appreciate having you come down. We're also very fortunate this year. The top 25 leading women entrepreneurs has chosen from our Chamber of Commerce, and were featured in New Jersey Monthly Magazine, Bernadette Solar from Middlesex Water, Ann Mazza from Vito Mazza Salon and Spa, and our own Karen Barnes. We're also very fortunate in the room to have past recipients of that very, very important honor. So if you're a past recipient, raise your hand. I know Valerie is. Thank you very much. I think that I did my job. Do I get a thumbs up in the back? Okay, I didn't forget anything. I look forward to getting better at this over the next 2 years. And I hope that all of you have an opportunity to come and join us again, because we love having you in Woodbridge. Thank you, and have a great day and a blessed weekend.